The Humble Beginnings, 1815 to 1825. George Boole was born on November 2nd, 1815, in Lincoln, England. His father, John Boole, was a simple shoemaker but deeply fascinated by mathematics and science. Though the family was poor, John's curiosity shaped George's early mind. At an early age, George began reading whatever books he could find, teaching himself subjects far beyond his years. The young Boole was not sent to a formal school. Instead, he learned through observation and independent study. His father's small workshop was filled with mathematical instruments and tools, sparking his interest in problem-solving. Even before age 10, Boole showed exceptional linguistic skills, translating Latin poetry and solving algebraic puzzles. Despite financial struggles, his family's encouragement and his father's love for learning became the foundation of his lifelong passion for knowledge. It was the beginning of a journey that would change the future of mathematics, logic, and ultimately, computer science. The self-taught scholar, 1826 to 1831. As a teenager, Boole's thirst for knowledge became unstoppable. With limited resources, he began studying advanced mathematics on his own. His education was purely self-directed, guided by borrowed books and late-night candlelight. By the age of 16, George was already fluent in Latin, Greek, French, and German, a rare feat for someone with no formal university background. He also started teaching at small village schools to help support his family financially. Despite these hardships, Boole viewed education as the most powerful weapon against poverty. During this period, he encountered works of Isaac Newton, Pierre-Simon Laplace, and Joseph Fourier, which inspired him to pursue higher mathematics. He started writing his own notes and theories, unknowingly setting the stage for groundbreaking discoveries in logic and algebra. His quiet dedication transformed him from a humble schoolteacher into a rising intellectual thinker of his time. The Teacher and Mathematician, 1832 to 1839. In his early 20s, Boole became a full-time teacher in Doncaster and Lincoln, establishing his own small school. Though teaching consumed much of his day, he continued mathematical research at night. His notebooks were filled with equations, patterns, and logical connections. Boole was fascinated by the idea of merging mathematics with reasoning, a concept largely unexplored at the time. He began publishing papers in local journals, slowly earning recognition from scholars. His 1839 paper on differential equations drew attention from the Cambridge Mathematical Journal. This moment marked the beginning of his journey from an obscure provincial teacher to a respected mathematical thinker. Despite lacking a university degree, Boole's analytical mind and originality were undeniable. His students admired his patience and clarity, unaware that their humble teacher was secretly building the foundations of a new kind of logic that would one day revolutionize the digital age. The breakthrough into logic, 1840 to 1844. The early 1840s brought George Boole into the spotlight. He began to realize that logic, the study of reasoning, could be expressed through algebraic symbols. While other mathematicians treated logic as philosophy, Boole saw it as a form of calculation. In 1844, his groundbreaking paper on the calculus of operators was published in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. The paper was revolutionary and earned him the prestigious Royal Medal. This recognition brought him to the attention of prominent mathematicians and scientists across Europe. His unique ability to merge abstract thought with practical mathematics made him one of the most innovative minds of his time. Boole was not only changing mathematics, he was redefining how humans could understand logic itself. The seeds of Boolean algebra had been planted, though their impact would only be fully realized more than a century later in computer science. Academic recognition, 1845 to 1849. By his early 30s, Boole had achieved what few self-taught scholars could dream of. In 1849, he was appointed as the first professor of mathematics at Queen's College, Cork, Ireland. This was a remarkable achievement for a man without formal university training. At Queen's, he finally found an environment that valued intellectual freedom and encouraged deep inquiry. His lectures inspired students to think critically and creatively. During this time, he began working on his most important book, The Mathematical Analysis of Logic, 1847. The book introduced the idea that logical statements could be treated like equations, capable of being solved mathematically. Boole's teaching and research were deeply intertwined. He often tested his ideas in the classroom before publishing them. Despite his fame, he remained humble, preferring solitude and reflection over public praise. His career was now fully devoted to exploring the mysterious link between mathematics and human reasoning. The Mathematical Analysis of Logic, 1847. In 1847, Boole's first major work, The Mathematical Analysis of Logic, was published, a slim but powerful book that would change intellectual history. It was the first attempt to treat logic as a branch of algebra. Boole argued that reasoning could be expressed through symbols and that these symbols could follow mathematical laws. He proposed that truth and falsehood could be represented by numbers, a concept that later became the basis of binary logic. The book was not immediately understood by many of his contemporaries, but it gained admiration from a few visionary scholars. Boole himself believed he was uncovering a language of the mind, one that could describe thought in precise, mathematical terms. The seeds of digital computation were being sown, though even Boole could not imagine that his abstract logic would one day form the foundation of computer circuits and programming languages. Love and Marriage, 1850 to 1855. In 1855, George Boole married Mary Everest, the niece of Sir George Everest, the man after whom Mount Everest was named. Mary was an intelligent and deeply spiritual woman who shared his passion for education and philosophy. Together, they formed a beautiful intellectual partnership. Their home in Cork became a center of lively discussions about science, logic, and religion. The couple had 5 daughters, several of whom later became writers and mathematicians. Mary played a vital role in supporting Boole's research, editing his works, and helping him balance family life with scholarship. Their marriage was based on mutual respect and deep intellectual connection. Boole found in Mary both a companion and an equal. During this period, his life reached a rare balance between love, teaching, and the pursuit of knowledge. It was a time of personal happiness and academic creativity, a golden chapter in his otherwise modest life. The Laws of Thought, 1854. Boole's masterpiece, an investigation of the laws of thought, was published in 1854. This monumental work established the field now known as Boolean algebra. He proposed that logical statements could be expressed through algebraic symbols such as 0 and 1, representing false and true. Boole's system allowed logic to be computed mechanically, though the world at the time had no machines capable of doing so. His equations later became the foundation of digital circuits and computer logic. The book was complex, blending philosophy, mathematics, and psychology, but its central idea was breathtakingly simple. Reasoning could be automated. Although many philosophers initially ignored it, the book's true significance became clear in the 20th century when engineers like Claude Shannon used Boolean logic to design electronic circuits. Boole's 1854 publication was not just a book. It was a prophecy of the modern computer age. A philosopher of the mind. Beyond mathematics, Boole was deeply interested in the nature of human thought. He believed that logic was not merely mechanical, but reflected the divine order of the universe. For him, mathematics was a bridge between the human mind and the laws of God. He often meditated on the connection between logic, language, and the soul. His writings combined spiritual depth with analytical clarity, a rare combination. Boole argued that understanding reasoning was also a way to understand consciousness itself. In his later years, he often wrote essays exploring how moral and intellectual truths could be understood through mathematical harmony. His philosophy influenced later thinkers who sought to unify science and spirituality. Boole's vision went beyond computation. He wanted to decode the very essence of human understanding, to create a science of thought that united logic, morality, and mathematics into one grand design. The final years, 1860 to 1864. By the early 1860s, Boole's health began to decline due to overwork. Despite being ill, he continued teaching and researching without rest. One fateful day in 1864, on his way to lecture in Cork, he was caught in heavy rain. Soaked and shivering, Boole delivered his entire lecture while still drenched. This exposure led to severe pneumonia. His wife Mary, following her belief in cures wrapped him in wet blankets, a treatment that tragically worsened his condition. After days of suffering, George Boole passed away on December 8, 1864, at just 49 years old. His death shocked the academic world. Colleagues mourned the loss of a brilliant and gentle mind. Though his life was short, his contributions were timeless. In his final days, Boole remained peaceful, believing he had fulfilled his purpose, bringing reason, mathematics, and the divine into harmony. The forgotten genius. After Boole's death, his work faded into obscurity for several decades. Many scientists admired his logic but failed to see its practical use. His writings were too advanced for the 19th century. The true power of Boolean algebra remained hidden, waiting for a new age of technology. It wasn't until the early 20th century that engineers rediscovered his work. When Claude Shannon, an American electrical engineer, applied Boolean logic to electrical circuits in 1937, Boole's theories suddenly became the heart of digital computation. His abstract symbols of 0 and 1 became the language of machines. The world finally recognized George Boole as a visionary who had foreseen the logic behind computers long before they existed. His once-forgotten name became immortal, inscribed in every byte of digital memory. Legacy and immortality. Today, George Boole is celebrated as the father of Boolean logic, the mathematical system that powers every modern computer, smartphone, and digital network. His concepts of true and false form the binary code that drives artificial intelligence, programming, and circuit design. Universities around the world honor his legacy, and his name lives on in Boolean algebra, Boolean operators, and Boole's theorem. More than just a mathematician, Boole was a philosopher who sought truth through logic and love through knowledge. His story reminds us that genius can emerge from anywhere, even from the workshop of a shoemaker's son. Though he died young, his ideas achieved immortality. Every click, every program, every digital command carries a spark of Boole's brilliance. In a world driven by zeros and ones, George Boole lives forever.